Your chances of being seriously injured or dying as a result of taking part are high. Individuals who have taken part in past adventures have been permanently disfigured, seriously disabled, and even lost their life. Wow.
I'm Michael Desrosiers, the host of the Attempt Adventure podcast. In March 2024, I will be heading to Sri Lanka to join the Rickshaw Run, an auto rickshaw or tuk-tuk race across the island country in what the adventurists, the organizers of the run, describe as a glorified lawnmower. And I somehow convinced my brother and our mom to come along with me. I can't stress how little any of us know about what we're actually getting ourselves into. There's no set route, and the adventurists provide very little support save for 2 days of basic mechanics and driving classes. We are going to get lost, we're going to be uncomfortable, and we are going to get so mad at each other at times. But we're going to come out on the other side with an amazing story to tell, and I'm sure having grown even closer together as a family. This season of the podcast is going to be a little different. I'm going to be documenting our entire journey from the planning stages through the finish line party. In this episode of the Attempt Adventure podcast, you can listen as we sign up for the Rickshaw Run and seek out some much-needed emotional support from an adventurous friend. It all began over a year ago when we decided to take the plunge, pay the registration fee, and officially put our names on the list to join the Rickshaw Run, March 2024. Confirm your place in the Rickshaw Run. What's your team name going to be? Okay, Team Mama's Boys.
Okay, are y'all happy with that?
Yep.
I'm good.
Describe your team. We are a family team of a mom and 2 adult sons.
Go.
Okay, how do you guys feel about all of this? At this point, I'd like to take a moment to introduce my co-hosts for the season.
I think it'll be fun.
Kyle Desrosiers is my brother. He's a journalist who lives in Boston, Massachusetts. He's pretty adventurous as well, having lived abroad in Turkey, Germany, and Israel, and worked as an intern at Rocky Mountain National Park in Colorado.
Yeah, it'd certainly be something different to do.
We've loved our trips in Asia.
Mm-hmm. Right now, it's so far in advance that it's not really yeah, that sounds fun.
Kim Desrosiers is our mother. She's a recently retired civil engineer and school teacher who lives in our home state of Texas. She's a huge world traveler and one of my inspirations for being open-minded and adventurous. However, I could tell that she was starting to feel maybe a little nervous about this sort of adventure. It's going to be fun, guys.
Okay, that sounds good.
It'll be a bonding experience.
It will be a bonding. We'll never forget it, I'm sure.
No,
we won't. I've been living as an expat in Bangkok, Thailand for the past decade. With years of COVID lockdowns, not to mention the general cost and difficulty of flying back to the US, we just don't get to all 3 be in the same place all that often. For me, I see this adventure as more than just a fun thing to do. I think it's going to be a really wonderful family experience and something that we are really going to cherish, especially when we look back after it's all over.
And we know who to blame if things go wrong.
That's true.
So the 3 of us are Team Mama's Boys. As the 3 most adventurous people in the family, we've decided to embark on this adventure together. As we began chatting about some things we needed to prepare, the conversation turned to some of the hazards that we might face on the road. Mechanical and mental breakdowns, getting lost, rain, tropical diseases, and wild animals.
And there's no protection from tigers on that tuk-tuk.
You go 30 miles an hour. How fast do tigers run?
I imagine more than 30 miles an hour.
Aren't they like some of the fastest land animals?
I mean, cheetahs for sure. Not tigers.
So it turns out that tigers can run up to 40 miles an hour. The good news is there are actually no wild tigers in Sri Lanka, so we won't have to worry about that. The bad news is that there are leopards who can also run up to 40 miles per hour. And while our chances of running into a leopard are rare, we learned that they are far from the most dangerous animal on the small island country. There are deadly snakes, such as the king cobra, the Ceylon crate, and the Russell's viper, whose venomous bite can coagulate human blood in seconds. Just under half of Sri Lanka's 100 snake species are thought to be venomous, and about 21 are considered to be deadly. Then there are the scorpions, wild monkeys, tarantulas, crocodiles, and mosquitoes, which are a vector for tropical disease and kill more humans every year than any other creature on Earth, serving as a reminder for us to visit a tropical disease clinic before we depart to make sure our jabs are up to date. As time got closer, I could tell that my family was maybe starting to get a little nervous, so I decided to call up my friend Scott Gurian, the host of the Far From Home podcast and probably one of the most adventurous people I know. Scott and his brother Drew have not been on the Rickshaw Run, but they did join the adventurous on the Mongol Rally, a much more intense 6-week road trip from London to Mongolia. About 3 months before the rally, I called up Scott and Drew for some encouragement and advice.
Packing is definitely, I think, going to be the biggest challenge when you're in a rickshaw.
That's Scott Gurian, who documented his journey across Europe and Asia on his podcast, Far From Home, which you can listen to by following the link in the show notes.
Just because you have so little space, so you've really got to, I mean, I guess you could start with all the things ideally you'd like to have, but then you've got to kind of winnow it down and say, you know, this is the limit for each person. And then these are the items as a team that we want to bring. Yeah, it's a little bit of a comfort level of, you know, the things you feel like you need to have to prepare. But then also realizing what are the things that you could easily find along the way. Everyone in Sri Lanka drives, you know, so many people drive rickshaws, they'll probably have the parts, know how to fix it, you know, so there's certain things you won't need to buy, you know, or you'll probably, most places be able to find food unless you're in a really rural area, you know. Obviously you want to have clean drinking water, you want to, you know, maybe when I travel like to the developing world, I usually bring some Cipro with me, just, you know, antibiotics if, you know, you never know what you're going to eat and get, you know, sick. So that's probably a good idea.
Is it literally like you're each allowed a backpack? Like I'm not talking like a backpack, like a small backpack full of whatever you're bringing, and you like put it on the roof with like some straps or like netting or something?
That's Drew Gurian, Scott's brother, who joined Scott on the Mongol rally and documented the adventure photographically. That's kind of what I'm imagining is gonna, you know, is how it's gonna have to be. I think there's a small space. It's maybe a foot wide, you know, in the back behind the seat. The more I think about it, the more concerned I am with how we're all going to fit our stuff in the back of a rickshaw. I mean, it's going to be 2 weeks in the country and we have nowhere to leave our luggage. We're going to have to carry everything with us. Now, I've traveled with my mom and my brother before, and between Mom's toiletries and Kyle's hair product, I don't know how I'm going to have much room for my belongings. The conversation turned to how we could get the most out of the adventure. How much planning should we actually put into preparing for this trip? How can we balance spontaneity with preparedness in order to get the most out of this adventure?
I think that the level of planning that you do is literally your own personal or group journey. Like Scott is much more of the planner between the two of us. And, you know, in certain ways you could say we were over prepared. But in other regards, I don't think that, you know, a lot of the teams that do, I'm sure a lot of the different adventurist rallies, including the Mongol rally, are like kids right out of university who are like 20 years old and they do this before getting their first job, who, you know, in our eyes, being a little bit older and, you know, without sounding snobby, maybe having a little bit more life experience. I think we tried to plan a little bit more than maybe a 20-year-old kid out of school would.
Right, yeah.
But I don't know if that necessarily worked in our favor or not. I don't think that there's a necessarily like an appropriate answer other than do whatever is comfortable for you. And in this case, for your mother as well. I'm sure you're all going to be pushed in your own way, but it's like finding a common ground for everybody.
So what, and that's the great thing when you have your own form of transportation, you can stop wherever and whenever you'd like. So if you see something on the side of the road that looks cool, like stop there, try to, you know, interact with the locals. And I mean, I think that's part of kind of the whole gimmick of these, you know, events at the Adventurous Plan, is that you're driving vehicles, whether it's cars or rickshaws or whatever it is, vehicles that are totally unsuitable for the journey, right? So that there's a high likelihood that you may break down or run into problems, and therefore you're forced to interact with the locals. But definitely don't see that as an impediment, like see that as an opportunity. And I mean, certainly if you're breaking down every 10 miles, then it gets to be an impediment. It can be really annoying. I say, speaking from experience, but yeah, no, just try to see the opportunity in that. And really, you know, you're getting a chance to see the vast, I guess, probably the center of this country that, you know, not a lot of people go to begin with. And you're especially going way off the beaten path to really kind of relish that.
I also got some good practical advice for documenting the trip. Unlike Scott, I'm not a professional journalist. Kyle is, but his expertise is in writing, not in audio. I'm amateur at best, and the advice was invaluable.
I mean, the nice thing with digital audio is you could never record too much. It's not like you'll run out of tape. I mean, a little, digital flash card, you could get hours and hours of material, and you could have extra ones. So, you have plenty of space. So I err on the side of recording more than less. Obviously, make sure you have extra batteries, all of that kind of stuff. What I try to do, because I come from an audio documentary background. I mean, I started as a journalist and I got more into documentary work. So I'm really trying to capture scenes of like what's actually going on. What does it look like? What does it smell like? What does it sound like? And you're serving as the eyes and ears for the listener. The thing is, on a journey like this, there's going to be so much that's happening. It's just your senses are going to be bombarded, and you're going to forget a lot. So I would say use every opportunity you can to like take notes of this is what happened today. Even you could even just use, whether it's recording your thing or even just using the voice memo app on your phone, just to record, even if it's not audio you're using, just stuff for yourself to have to remember later on when you're going to put these stories together. Just err on the side of recording more than less, I would say.
I would just say to like make your teammates, fully aware of what you're trying to do, and that the goal is literally to record everything, the good and the bad. And I say that from experience on our trip, because I can remember moments where, we slept in the car and we're lost in the middle of nowhere, or a car was broken down, what have you. And we're all sort of in like bad moods and starving because we didn't actually eat dinner, whatever it was. And Scott like has a microphone in my face and, he's asking me like how I'm doing and what I think about what just happened. And like, I understand what he's doing because we're brothers, and I, but it is, unless it's something you're used to, it could kind of be annoying, or it's like, I don't want to talk right now. I'm having a horrible time. Well, yeah, that's what I'm trying to document though. So I think that's important, just to like let them know what your intentions are there, so that that's sort of put out there ahead of time. Is there any good way to back up without bringing the laptop, just to do like a simple download and backup of like, I know for photos, like I have an SD card reader for my phone.
Oh yeah,
I can download
I have one of those. That's a great idea.
My camera. I'm not sure if you can do something similar with audio files.
Probably could use the Files app on the like Apple Files and send it that way.
That would be good to be able to have it, to just have redundancy there.
Yeah.
Oh, you take the card out of your recorder, put it in this thing, and then wireless by Bluetooth or whatever, send it to the phone. Oh, okay.
No, it plugs into your port on your phone.
Oh, okay.
And it's a card reader that has a cord that goes into the bottom of your iPhone.
Got it. Okay.
Just for SD cards.
Okay. A lot of times, just to be safe, unless I'm really running out of space, even after I back things up, until I'm like finally editing together the story or whatever, sometimes I'll still leave the audio on my card in the recorder just as a backup on there. So, I mean, the cards are so tiny that you can bring several of them. You shouldn't have any problem with running out of space. Okay. That should be fine. Like I said, and just you want to bring extra batteries, obviously.
Drew also gave me some great advice about documenting the journey via photographs and video. While I'll mainly be documenting the adventure via audio, I do plan to take lots of video as well, and I want to make a little short film when we get back.
I mean, I brought a small camera with me that had, 2 interchangeable lenses, but like a very small rangefinder style camera. Just keep whatever you bring, keep it as simple as possible, whatever that is.
The nice thing with taking pictures with your phone is that it will usually geotag them. Go into the settings and make sure that's turned on or whatever. But even when you're out of cell phone range, somehow it saves like the coordinates, which is a really nice feature. So you could look back later on and, look it up and see exactly where this was. And it's like super cool. So there's certain, like pictures, or we're trying to remember, in our journey, this crazy thing happened. Where was that again? And I'll find a picture and I'll be able to like zoom way in. Oh, it was exactly at that place. So that's a really cool feature.
We talked about how the adventure might change us and might bring us closer together as a family. I mean, I imagine that myself and my brother especially are going to get really mad at each other at points on the journey, and I'm sure as brothers you can understand that. But do you think that your relationship as brothers changed over the course of the adventure?
I mean, certainly when you're cramped in a little tiny vehicle for weeks and even months on end, tensions come out, even not just between the two of us, also with our other two teammates, these two women we were with. They were driving in a separate car. But yeah, there are stressful moments, there are annoying moments there, and sometimes people, when you're put in this situation, you're inevitably on edge at certain points. So yes, it can be annoying and frustrating, and but just recognize it's because of the situation that you've all been put in. And, maybe people are a little more on edge than they normally would just because they've never been in this situation and it's overwhelming. And maybe people are just really uncomfortable. And, if you've never done anything like this before, you could be way out of your comfort zone. And so, someone might react a little bit differently than they normally would. So just kind of, I guess, be open.
Sure.
And aware of that.
Sure. And I guess ultimately we wouldn't be doing something so stupid like this if we didn't, at the end of the day, like each other, right?
Sure.
Anyway.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I do think that it does. I mean, I can't point to anything in particular, but I would say that it's strengthened our relationship as brothers in that you're forced to work through a lot of issues along the way, and you have to sort of lean on each other's strengths. And I think you see those things that you like. His preparedness in certain ways definitely came out in a very positive way. And I'm sure there's certain characteristics that I have that may have been helpful. But yeah, I mean, it's a challenge all around, and just being able to lean on each other and have a sense of resilience that you have as a team is incredibly important.
And finally, the brothers gave me some much needed encouragement and support to pass on to my family.
Very cool.
I think it'll be great. I think you'll love it.
As long as we make it back alive, we're happy. That's it.
Yeah, no, I'm sure it's going to be amazing. Yeah. And there's going to be plenty of other rally teams with you. I'm sure if it's like our trip, I'm sure you'll constantly run into other groups along the way. I mean, you all choose your own route, but I'm sure there'll be at least some that are going on whatever route you choose. I mean, I don't think the island of Sri Lanka is that big. So you'll constantly be running into other people if, worst case scenario, someone else can help you out in some way, probably. So
it'll be fun. Yeah, it'll be so much fun. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be great to just have a break from real life for a while, and just do something kind of irresponsible and crazy.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, gosh, guys, cannot thank you enough. Just really appreciate your time today. It was super helpful.
Yeah, of course.
Well, best of luck.
Happy holidays. Yeah.
So we're really doing this. We've paid for the adventure, and there's no backing out now. I still don't know how I convinced my mom to join me on this. She's really adventurous, but she also likes comfort when she travels. But when the idea first came to me, thanks in part to the inspiration that Scott gave me when I interviewed him about his adventure in Mongolia on this podcast, which you can listen to, Season 2, Episode 7, do check it out, it's a great episode, it was just sort of at the right time. My 96-year-old grandmother had just passed, and I had come back to the U.S. for a funeral. While preparing for the funeral, we were looking through some of her old photos, and we saw about the adventures she had had, the travels that she had had around the world. And while I don't think that Nana would have been interested in doing anything like this, I do think that she would have been proud of us for this kind of adventure.
I think this is more exciting than anything Nana did. I would have liked to have her reactions to this. That would have been funny.
Yeah, I wouldn't have even told her. She would have She would have thought you were crazy. And maybe you are.
In the next episode, we buckle down and prepare some practicalities for the adventure. I hire a Sinhala teacher to teach us some of the basics and to answer all of our questions about Sri Lanka. And we reach a major fundraising milestone and have to do something embarrassing. Stay tuned for the second episode of the Team Mama's Boys Sri Lanka special, coming soon. Special thanks to Scott and Drew Gurian for taking the time to give me practical advice, help, and support in planning and documenting this adventure. We would also like to thank those of you who have made a donation to one of our 2 charities that we are supporting: Jay and Liz Stepp, Ashley Barnett, John and Wendy Tinker, Lang Club Inc., Michelle and Bobby Turner, Marilyn H., Julie Ure, Melissa Thornton, Leanne and Cliff Omo, Alex N., and those of you who have given anonymously. If you'd like to make a donation of any size, you can visit the link below in the show notes. Every penny you give will go directly to our charities, and if you donate just $10 or more, you too can get a shout out on this show. After all, that's what this adventure is all about. It's about doing something good for the world while having a bit of fun along the way. So until next time, keep adventuring.